Hello, algebra students. Mr. Lawrence here, and I'm going to do a little quick factoring review. We've only done a little bit of factoring, but there's so many types. I want to make sure you're getting good at the types we are doing. Now, it gets kind of tricky to know when to use which type of factoring. So I'm putting together a little flow chart for you. The first type of factoring you should always try. Always try. Always. Always. Did I say you should always try this first? Is to GCF. Always look to GCF first. And don't think there's never a GCF, because there always is a GCF. Sometimes the GCF is 1 and we don't do anything with it, but there is a GCF, a greatest common factor. So always look to do that first. Second, you want to ask yourself how many terms? How many terms? Because this will start to tell us what type of factoring we should use. So, if there are 2 terms, okay, the only possibility is the difference of perfect squares. The difference of perfect squares. And remember, that has to be a perfect square minus a perfect square, like 9x squared minus 16. That factors. Or negative 25x squared plus 4. That will factor. Okay? If you've done the GCF and there are 2 terms, the only way it can possibly factor is by the difference of perfect squares. Remember, x squared plus 9 would not factor. Definitely not. Wouldn't work because there's no difference. Difference means subtraction. Okay, now if there are 3 terms, we know 2 ways so far. We have one more way to learn. 2 ways to factor. Remember, we've already done the GCF, then we say how many terms. If there are 3 terms, the first thing we should try to make our life easier is a perfect square trinomial, right? Perfect square trinomial, like for example, x squared plus 6x plus 9. That's a perfect square trinomial. Or how about 16x squared? Let's put a plus 25 back here, and a minus, let me see, 40x. Those are both perfect square trinomials, okay? Those are examples. Those will factor. If it's not a perfect square trinomial, remember the first and third terms have to be perfect squares. The product of the square roots doubled has to be 6x. So x, 3x, doubled 6x. 4x, 5, makes 20, doubled is 40. Okay, if it's not a perfect square trinomial, the only other way you know how to factor is A equal to 1. And that's where you list the factors of C, and you got to make them match B by either addition or subtraction. Now we have a third type to learn. We're not going to do that today. And then we also have to consider what happens when there are 4 terms. Okay, so that this chart will have to get filled out more in the future. But I just wanted to go over the 4 types of factoring we know so far. GCF, difference of perfect squares, perfect square trinomials, and factoring a trinomial when A is 1. So I have 3 practice problems here for you. I'd love for you to pause the video, factor them completely, and then watch my solutions. All right, if you haven't tried them yet, please pause the video and go ahead and try. All right, here come my solutions. Number 1, first I'm looking for a GCF, and I think I'm going to get a 4x, but if I'm not sure, I'll list my factors of 16, 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 3 doesn't go in, 4 and 4, and I'm done, right? And let's see, does 16 go into 36 evenly? No. Does 8 go into 36? No. Does 4? It sure does. So 4 is my greatest common factor of the coefficients. Greatest common factor of the x's is x. So I'm going to factor out a 4x, do not throw it away, and then I will have a 9x squared minus a 4, right? Now, some of you want to stop there, but we're not done. Inside that quantity, there's a binomial. There's 2 terms. And look, it's a perfect square minus a perfect square. So let's see, this is 3x, this is 2. This is going to factor as 4x times the quantity of 3x plus 2 times the quantity of 3x minus 2. And there it is completely factored. Yeah, that quantity above, that 9x squared minus 4, is the difference of perfect squares, and that's how I knew to factor it so easily. All right, if you haven't tried number 2 yet, please go ahead. All right, I'm looking for a GCF here. Now, I'm not going to list the factors of 84. I'm going to list the factors of 3 because it has the smallest number of factors. If 3 doesn't go into 84 or 9, to both of them, it has to go into both, then the GCF is 1 and I won't do anything with it. Oh, by the way, it looks like I'm missing an X on the end there. Sorry about that. Okay, so 3 does go into 9. It also goes into 84. How do I know? 8 plus 4 is 12, and 3 goes into 12. Remember, that trick only works for 3s and 9s. So my GCF is going to be a 3x. I'm going to factor it out, be left with an x squared minus 3x, right? Now let's see here, 84. Well, I know 81 divided by 3 is 27, so I'm guessing this is going to be 28. It's one more 3, okay? So now I need 2 factors of 28 that subtract to get negative 3. How about a 4 minus a 7? 4 times 7 is 28. 4 minus 7 equals negative 3. This one will factor as 3x. I'll have 2 quantities, right? And I'll have an x here, and I'll have a positive 4 and a negative 7. And there we've factored completely. All right, one more. Oh, I think I'm going to list the factors of 24 on this one as I go look for the GCF. I notice there's not an x on every term, so that won't be a part of my GCF. But the factors of 24 are 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. 5 does not go in evenly. Okay, so let's see, 24 into 150. I don't think so, but I'm not really sure. 24, 48, I'm counting by 24s in case you're wondering what I'm doing. 72, 96, 24 is going to be 120, and then another 24 would be 144. There's no way it's going to work. All right, so 24 does not work. Is 12 going to work? Let me see. Well, I guess I can count by 12s. I don't think so because 24 is twice 12, and that would have meant that I could have found a way. So I'm going to assume it doesn't work. Okay, 8. Let's see, 150 cut in half is 75. Well, 8's not going to work because to be divisible by 8, I got to be able to divide the number in half, cut it in half 3 times. Like, for example, 24 can be divided by 8, right? 24 divided by 2 is 12, divided by 2 is 6, divided by 2 is 3. For 8 to be able to go in, you have to be able to divide by 2, divide by 2, and divide by 2 again, and have a number, a whole number, okay? Because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So 8 does not work. Does 6 work? Well, I don't know. Let's see, 150. Put 6 in. I'll do the long division. It's going in there twice, so it'll be 12. That's going to be 30. Oh, it's going in 25 times. So 6 is going to be my GCF because I know 6 goes into 120 and 24. So I'm going to factor out a 6. I'll have a 4x squared plus, let's see, that'll be 20x plus 25. All right, now don't stop there because look inside. I think we have a perfect square trinomial. The square root of this is 2x. Square root of this is 5. Multiply together 10x, doubled 20x. This is a perfect square trinomial. It's going to factor as 6 times the quantity of 2x plus 5 times the quantity of 2x plus 5. Or if you were lazy, you could have done this. There's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly acceptable. It means the same exact thing. All right, that's it for the video. Nothing new, just practicing factoring. Make sure you're good at it before we go on to the next type. All right, that's it. If you got any questions, please drop me an email or make a comment in the Google Classroom. All right, Mr. Lawrence signing off. Have a good night, everybody.